Okay, so see, whenever I think today there is one slide also. During that slide, I will going on to repeat all the things, right? How that duty cycle it will going on to control the output voltage, right? And whatever duty by duty cycle we calculated for that switch means what? Whatever controlling pulses we are applying to that switch, that should have the same duty cycle, na? Then and then with the same duty cycle, it will going on to turn and turn off, right? So no need to again take that view and V in, right? Or shall I explain on blackboard today again? Shall I repeat
Sir,
it?
Blackboard will explain. Yes, sir.
So see here we will take a simple example now. I will consider this one as a switch and there is somewhat load connected over here and somewhat DC source like this, correct? This DC source is of 207 volts, right now. Here our requirement is what? Just 5 volts, correct? I will draw both waveforms, that is for input as well as output. This is my input voltage, which is of 207 volts, correct now? And my output voltage nature will be like this. Is it visible properly?
Yes, sir.
Getting blurred. Is it visible? Getting
Yes,
blurred?
sir.
Yes, sir.
No, sir, visible.
Okay. Okay. So see, the available input voltage is how much? 207 volts, right? From that, by these pulses, or suppose this one is our output. This is my output. And its average, if we take its average, that is VO average, it will be equals to 5 volts. While its peak voltage of that pulses, it will be of 207. Same. This is 207, correct now? Are you getting it? Whenever we will take the average of these pulses, average means what? Suppose by DC measurement, if you have connected DMM over here across this RL, what we are applying to that DMM? We are applying pulses of how much amplitude? 207 volts. Last time also, I explained, I asked one question. Our DMM will go on to read it as for time being as a 207, later on it will go to 0, again time being 207 like this. No. What that DMM will read or how it will go on to read it? It will go on to read it as a average value because we are taking the DC measurements. Right now? Are you agree with this? Whatever pulses we are applying to the DMM, the DMM will go on to measure the average of that applied pulses, and that is nothing but 5 volts. Are you agree with this?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now we determine the duty cycle for the switch right now, because as per that formula, VO equals to what? Capital D into V in. Is it? Our VO requirement is 5 volts divided by V in is 207, and that is our duty cycle. How much it is? You might have calculated it last time also. Just let me know how much is the duty cycle. Then you will get clear now.
24.15.
24.50, na? Is it okay? Percentage. Are you determining percentage? See, that switching frequency of this switch.
24.15 milli.
Milli. 10 raised to minus 3. Okay. Don't say milli. Okay. We'll take it as 24.50 into 10 raised to minus 3. Now, the switching frequency we decided of 20 kilohertz. Am I right? The switch, it should get turned on and turn off with how much frequency? 20 kilohertz frequency. That means it's capital T, it is of reciprocal of this 20K and it is 50 microseconds. Correct? Are you agree with this? Which is equals to T on divided by capital T. Right? Therefore, T on equals to capital T, that is 50 microseconds, into 24.50 into 10 raised to minus 3. How much is T on now? I think it is 1.2 microseconds.
Yes,
Is it?
24 microseconds.
How much?
1.2.
Yes, it is 1.2 microseconds, T on. Correct? And therefore, T off, that is nothing but capital T minus T on. And it will be 48.8 microseconds. Is it okay up to over here? That means whatever logic high pulse we will obtain at the output of this switch, this is just acting as a switch, remember, this transistor. So when it will get closed, how much will be the output voltage? Applied voltage, applied input, right now. And that's why I shown its amplitude at 10, that is 207. But up to how much time period it will remain at 207? It will remain only for 1.2 microseconds. And later on, it will remain off up to how much time period? It will remain off for 48.8 microseconds. Are you agree with this? Yes or no?
Yes.
That switch will remain off for 48.8 microseconds and will remain on only for 1.2 microseconds according to our calculated value of duty cycle by taking its switching frequency at 20 kilohertz. Total T for the 20K is 50 microseconds, right now. That means the switch, it should get on and off continuously with this much time period. T on at 1.2 micro and T off at 48.8 microseconds. Are you agree with this?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, this is our electronic switch, that is transistor. How we can turn on and turn off it? By applying the gate pulses. If we consider that transistor as a MOSFET, right? How much should be the amplitude of that gate pulse? That also we discussed last time. The amplitude of that gate pulse, it should be maximum. Why? Because that MOSFET, it should work into its ohmic region as an on switch, so that the drop across that switch will be minimum, right? Now, suppose that VGS, to force that transistor into its ohmic region, VGS requirement, if it is of 10 volts, VGS requirement is of 10 volts, right? What I will do, again, by the same duty cycle, having its peak amplitude at 10 volt, I will generate the pulses. Correct? So this third one is what? This is nothing but VGS. Having its amplitude at 10 volts. Where we are applying it, now see, this part is separate, totally separate part. We will go on to generate these pulses with how much frequency? 20 kilohertz, right? With how much duty cycle? That is 24.50 into 10 raised to minus 3. Are you getting it now?
Yes, sir.
So see, this gate pulses, where we will going to apply it? We will going to apply to the gate terminal of that MOSFET. So this is separate circuitry, correct? This is nothing but the output of PWM generator. Is it? This is nothing but output of PWM generator, and where we are applying it? We are applying it to the gate of that transistor. So here, can we say with the same duty cycle, this transistor will go on to operate? Yes. And whenever it will go on to operate with the same duty cycle, can we say the obtained output voltage will be 5 volts? Yes. Why you get confused? Are you getting it now? Still confusion. Just let me know, are you getting it? Still you have some confusion.
Understood, sir.
Clear now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we'll switch to our next PowerPoint presentation. So just wait again for a few seconds. Okay, are you getting my screen now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So see, last time we came up to over here and we directly switch to this PWM generator. Okay. This PWM generator, we will going on to generate the pulses as per the switching frequency requirement of this transistor. Maybe MOSFET or it may be BJT, is it? And that pulses are applied to the primary of this transformer. This transformer is high frequency transformer. Okay. Now remember, the size of this high frequency transformer, it is actually very small as compared to the conventional transformers. Okay. Last time I might have told it, as the operating frequency of the transformer increases, its size gets decreased. Okay. So actually it is very, very small as compared to our conventional transformer. So that high frequency pulses, as per our example, 20 kilohertz frequency pulses are applied to the primary of this transformer, and across the secondary, again we'll get the somewhat reduced amplitude pulses, or it may be just a coupling transformer. Okay, according to the need of that output, as well as if there are few limitations. See, so many things are possible in this case. Instead of directly taking the average of 5 volt at the output of that switching transistor, due to the switching frequency as well as limitation of operating that transistor with that pre-calculated duty cycle, then there is a need of step down at this stage. So whatever pulses, high frequency DC pulses you will going to apply across secondary, that pulses should get step down. Okay, accordingly that transformer is designed. Or if that averaging is done over here only by that calculated duty cycle and all that, then there is no need of again step down, because already we are obtaining here that required voltage, that is 5 volts, by considering this transformer is lossless transformer. Okay. Are you getting it? Either you can step down that DC voltage across this step down, across this power transformer or a high frequency transformer, or you can step down it by controlling the duty cycle over here only, right? So both things are possible. And later on, that high frequency pulses, DC pulses, are again passed through this filter through one diode, and it gets smoothened out as a just constant DC. So remember, the level of this DC, it will be very small as compared to this one. In our example, this level we taken it as a 207 volts, okay, and this one is just 5 volt, correct? Last time already I explained about the feedback. There is one feedback, comparator circuit, and that feedback which is given to the, or which is combinedly acting as a PWM generator, and that PWM pulses are given as a gate drive to that switch. Okay, so this is the basic block diagram. Okay, now there are few types of that SMPS. Mostly how we are configuring that switch and its output accordingly, that SMPS is broadly classified as DC to DC converters, or forward converter, flyback converter, self-oscillating flyback converter, etc. So in detail, we will going on to again discuss on these various types. So at this stage, only remember the various types of that SMPS as DC to DC converter, forward converter, flyback converter, and self-oscillating flyback converter. Okay. Now the next points are the advantages and disadvantages of SMPS. Are you getting my screen properly?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So see the advantages. The switching action means the series regulator element, that means that pass transistor is either on or off, and that's why very high efficiency levels are achieved as very little energy we dissipated as a heat. Now see what is meaning of this line. Why very high efficiency we can achieve by using the SMPS. This is the main advantage of SMPS. Power losses across SMPS, it is very less as compared to our linear power supplies. Why it will be very less? Because see, whatever power dissipation will occur, mostly it will be across the switch, and we are keeping that switch turn on for very small time duration, and whenever it will be off, then no issue about the power loss. No power dissipation will going on to occur across that switch, right? Are you agree with this?
Yes, sir.
Okay. See, again I will repeat, very high efficiency levels are achieved as very little energy we dissipated as a heat. What is the meaning of that? The switch, it remains on for very small time duration, and when the power dissipation occurs, when there will be a flow of current through the switch, right? And the power dissipation or voltage drop across that switch is simply equals to IR, current flowing through that switch into the resistance of that switch. First thing, that care we already taken, that whenever that switch we are turning on, it should get on into its ohmic region. And in ohmic region, during my previous lecture, I shown that output characteristics for BJT as well as for MOSFET. Correct. And in that ohmic region, we observed the VDS, that is voltage across drain to source, it is very, very small. I taken one example about that transistor also, that is IRF 540N. In that I shown whenever it is totally in on state, that transistor, or when it will get force by applying that VGS sufficiently large, then the RD on, that is the resistance offered by that transistor between drain to source, it is almost 0 ohm. Practically in that data sheet it is mentioned as 0.04 ohm only. So that is as good as 0, right? So during on state, there will be a voltage drop. So the first thing is what? During that 1.2 microsecond, as per our example, whatever drop will going to occur, that will be very, very small due to the low resistance offered by that transistor. And second one, that transistor remains on for very small time duration. That is only for 1.2 microseconds. Correct now? And that's why the efficiency achieved by SMPS, it is sufficiently large as compared to linear power supply. While in case of LPS, what conclusion was there? That regulator IC, it remains continuously in on state. And already I told that regulator ICs are high dropout voltage regulator ICs, 2 to 3 volt, that drop occurs across them, right? And hence, whatever power dissipation occurs in case of linear power supply, it is sufficiently large. And second source of power dissipation in LPS is that step down transformer. Even if we are considering input power equals to output power for step down transformer, but practically because of few losses like hysteresis loss, eddy current losses, or that copper losses, etc., somewhat power dissipation occurs. But in SMPS, we avoided the use of that step down transformer, right? And that's why again the efficiency gets improved. Is it? And another advantage, it is very compact in size. What is the reason behind that? The size of that SMPS. First thing, no need to use the step down transformer. Okay. And whatever transformer is there, it is high frequency transformer in SMPS. Already I told high frequency transformer, it is very, very small as compared to our conventional 50 Hertz transformer, right? And that's why it is very compact. Similarly, the SMPS technology also provides high efficiency voltage conversion in step up, that is known as boost application. That means again it is DC to DC converter, but the output DC, it will be somewhat more than that of applied, and that's why it is known as a boost converter. Similarly, there are buck converters. That means output is less than input. Whatever discussion we done, it is just like a buck converter. Input is 207 in our example, and output, that is just 5 volts. So whatever discussion we done, that is of buck type of converter. Okay. Now there are disadvantages also. As I told, that transistor, it gets turn on and turn off with very high frequency. Is it? In our example also, we taken it as a 20 kilohertz. So there are some spikes, transient spikes. It gets generated in the power lines, right? That means whatever input we are applying to that transistor, in that input DC voltage, spike gets generated. And it gets migrated into other areas of that circuit if it is not properly filtered. Second one, that is electromagnetic effect. These generated high frequency transient spikes can cause the electromagnetic or RF interference, which affects the other nearby items of that electronic equipment, particularly if they are receiving the radio signals. Then next disadvantage, we can't say actual this one as a disadvantage, but whenever we are comparing with LPS, we should think about the cost also. So as it is so many things we observed, just like at the first stage, high voltage rectification, then that switch, then the switching element to that switch, that is nothing but PWM generator, then feedback, then high frequency transformer, and again at the output side, that rectification, as well as that filtration by inductor and capacitor. Okay. So the cost of this SMPS, it is somewhat more than that of our linear power supply. And design is also somewhat complex as compared to that linear power supply. So these are the few advantages and disadvantages of this SMPS. Okay. whatever this block diagram as well as this data I collected, uh, I got it from this site. You can also visit it. That is www.electronicsforyou.com. That's why I written here courtesy. I taken this material from this site. Okay. So by this discussion, you might have understood about the basics of that SMPS, then its basic block diagram and components used, and that various types I just listed of that DC to DC converter, that is SMPS. Okay. So we'll switch to the next part of the same, and that is nothing but somewhat mathematical expression. Already I covered it during my previous lecture also. So basic working principle, you are well familiar with this one. Then see the same things again I mentioned in this slide. You should be familiar with this word again, chopper. Whatever the transistor we are using, that is also known as a chopper. Okay. So this switch, that is either MOSFET or BJT. Here I mentioned that all three types, BJT or MOSFET or IGBT. If you are not familiar with this IGBT, then during the next semester, that is in power electronics, it is there. So during that, I will again cover it. What is that IGBT? It is a combination of that MOSFET and BJT. That's why it is known as the insulated gate bipolar transistor. Okay. The same things I written, the close time of that switch, open time of that switch, and its capital T, that is close time plus open time, that is T1 plus T2, right? So I think no need to again revise these things. Today also we discuss how to find out that average output voltage of the pulsating octane DC. Already I explained by taking that integration from 0 to T1, because during that period only we are getting the output, right? And we derived that octane average output, this VA, this is nothing but average output voltage. VA equals to, here it is taken as a K, this is nothing but duty cycle again. So duty cycle into Vin. Vn is nothing but our supply voltage, amplitude of that supply voltage. In our example, it is 207. Okay. Now the average value of load current, how much it will be? Simply just divide that average voltage by the load resistance, you will get the average value. That's why I written here also, that is IA equals to VA by capital R. This capital R, it is nothing but the load resistance, which is connected at the output of that SMPS. Okay. And VA, as we know, it is capital D into Vin. Here it is written as K into Vs, one and the same thing. So just replace that VA by that capital D into Vin divided by load resistance, right? See here, I mentioned that what is capital K, this is nothing but T1. T1 is nothing but T on divided by total T, and that is duty cycle. Okay. Then the RMS value of that octane output voltage, how much it will be? As it is titled as RMS, that means root of mean of square. So the same thing you will observe in this formula. That's why I written it as 1 by capital T integration 0 to KT VO square, because it is root of mean of square, correct? Now VO square dt and raised to 1/2, as it is root. And at the end, you have to remember this thing. RMS value of that octane output voltage, that is VO, is equals to under root of D into Vin. See how to remember it. In case of average DC value, it is only capital D into Vin, correct? But when we have to find out the RMS value of the content of that RMS component in that output voltage, then it is equals to under root of that capital D into Vin again. Okay. Now how to generate that gating signals, that also we already covered. Here I taken the example of sawtooth carrier instead of triangular. In our previous discussion, we taken it as a triangular wave. Again, one more thing you will observe in case of triangular wave, there is negative half cycle, correct? As we are considering that triangular wave as a AC signal, there is a negative half cycle. But in case of the shown sawtooth, there is no negative half cycle. So only this period it will going on to decide. That means the reference and this carrier signal, it will going on to decide the width of generated pulses. Is it? Are you getting it? The difference between the shown sawtooth carrier and the our previous considered, that is triangular waveform. Is it? Now, suppose we have to shift that triangular wave above the x-axis. See, that triangular wave, it is symmetrical about x-axis. That means it contains positive as well as negative half cycles. But if I want only positive half cycles, then there is need of shifting of that triangular wave above the x-axis. By how much amplitude? I think in our example we taken it as 8 volts as per our previous discussion, right? The peak amplitude of that triangular wave is 8. That means peak to peak it is of 16 volts. But if we want to shift it above the x-axis, that means we have to shift that triangular wave by 8 volts. How we can? Can anybody? Are you getting what I am asking? My screen is visible now properly?
Yes, sir.
Yes or no?
Yes, yes.
Is it there? Okay.
डायोड यूज केला
Yes, yes.
डायोड यूज केला था
Drivers.
डायोड डायोड
Diode use करायचा. How we can use that diode to shift that? See, the property of that signal it should not get disturbed. That means whatever information is available during the negative half cycle, it should remain there, but only it should get shifted above the x-axis. There should not be a losses. Okay, that thing we will cover during our today's practical session. I will try to show it, right? There, again, op-amp based, there are voltage level shifter circuits. You can also search it. Otherwise, I will explain how that waveform gets shifted, and that is known as a voltage level shifter. Okay, you might have learned it during your integrated circuit applications. So that is also possible, but if needed, then only we can shift. Otherwise, if no requirement, then keep it as it is. No issue. Okay. So how to generate that gate pulses? Already we covered all these things during our previous lectures only. Now what is that PWM, or how we can generate that PWM? Already I told, using that IC555 also we can generate that PWM signals, as well as using op-amp we can generate it. Okay. So what is that PWM? Applications of PWM: controlling the speed of DC motor. Here I mentioned means what? See how we can control the speed of DC motor. So just again come back to our basic working principle of that DC to DC converter. Whatever discussion we done, whenever we are turning on that switch, we are obtaining the output same as that of input, like that. Okay. So the duty cycle, it controls the output voltage, right? If that load is DC motor, correct? If we increase the duty cycle of that switch, then what will going to happen with the speed of this DC motor? By increasing the duty cycle, output voltage gets increased, because VO is directly proportional to that capital D, right? So if we increase the duty cycle, output voltage also will get increased, and hence speed of this DC motor also will get increased, and vice versa. That's why we can simply write the application of that PWM as speed controlling. Okay. Then in inverters for controlling the RMS of the output AC or for producing modified sine wave outputs. Then in SMPS for controlling the output voltage, already we discussed. In LED driver circuits for enabling LED dimming functioning, one and the same thing, same as that of first, controlling the speed of DC motor. And similarly, if we have to change the light intensity of LEDs in that LED driver circuits, then also that PWM by changing the duty cycle can change the light intensity. Okay. Then used in buck boost topologies, already we discussed. Now, op-amp as a comparator. During our practical session, we already covered it, but this second part, I think I do not explain it. Okay. So see, in first case, that reference voltage which is generated by using voltage divider RR, which is powered by this VCC, it will going on to compare with what? Triangular wave. So this is nothing but your triangular waveform which is applied to the non-inverting terminal, and the reference voltage, that is DC voltage, as I written here, both resistor as RR, that means the node voltage by that voltage divider, it will be half of applied voltage, that is VCC. Okay, and that's why I written here VCC by 2 and drawn one straight line which is acting as a reference voltage. Okay, correct. And this V out, the diode is not shown, that means negative saturation is not shown, but consider we are considering only the positive outputs. Correct. So according to the differential voltage available between these inverting and non-inverting terminal of that op-amp, its output will be either plus Vsat or minus Vsat, and the same thing I shown here. Okay. So by this the same logic, if we interchange that terminals, that means reference, if it is given to the non-inverting and carrier is applied to the inverting terminal. Now, during one cycle, one half cycle, the generated pulses will be 2. Are you getting it about this inverting comparator? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Are you getting about this inverting comparator? During the
Yes,
same
sir.
during the same half cycle of that carrier, we can generate the 2 pulses. And in case of inverting comparator, we can generate a single pulse. Correct, right? If we kept the peak amplitude of that triangular wave, that is carrier same, as well as reference voltage also same, only if we interchange that input terminals of op-amp, the thing you will observe, the width of pulse. Here it is somewhat less as compared to a single width obtained using non-inverting comparator. Okay, so this is not that much tough, so you just try to learn it, you will get clear idea about it. Okay, then next one is known as a window comparator. You might not have seen such type of circuitry during your integrated circuit applications. You will observe there are 2 op-amps, A1 and A2. Input signal is common to both. Input means that is carrier signal, it is common to both. For first op-amp, it is applied to the inverting terminal, and for second op-amp, it is applied to non-inverting. Okay, and the reference voltages are also different now. 3 resistors are used. See, during our prerequisite, already I covered these things. All resistors are of same value. Correct. And if it is powered by VCC, all that 3 are connected in series. Between first 2, how much it will be? 2 by 3 VCC. Correct? Because that node voltage, how you will determine that node voltage over here, that is for the first op-amp and its non-inverting terminal, that node voltage will be equals to VCC into R plus R, because the total resistance for this node voltage or the resistance across which we are taking this node voltage is R plus R. So 2R divided by 3R, total resistance of that path, is it? And that's why simply here it is written as 2 by 3 into VCC. And for the second case, it is VCC into R only, right? Because only a single resistor is there across which we are taking this node voltage, which is applied to the inverting terminal of second op amp. So VCC into R divided by again 3R. So it will be 1/3 of VCC, 1/3 of VCC, right? So there are two reference signals while the carrier is same. The same is shown here. See, a triangular wave with peak amplitude, and it is compared with two reference signal. One is of 1/3 of VCC and second one is 2/3 of VCC. Correct. And according to the configuration used, that means for first op amp, the reference signal is given to the non-inverting, and for second op amp, that reference voltage is given to the inverting. So just apply the logic according to the potential difference between input terminals for both op amp and what will be its output. Is it? So you will get about this output. Are you getting it? About the window comparator? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Now, what point you will highlight over here about the output? You will observe that RL is connected to the output with respect to not ground. That RL is connected with respect to VCC. That also you have to consider how such type of output is obtained. And that's why it is known as a window comparator. Clear? Okay, just take this screenshot of this circuitry and think over it. Okay. And the next one is that IC555. Already you studied IC555 as a stable multi-vibrator, monostable multi-vibrator and all that. So during my next lecture, I will be